A journey to self-discovery and self-healing. That's the topic of PTSD self-healing show all the time.
Mhm.
And today we have Sarah Salter Kelly. She's author, healer, and speaker, and we're gonna talk about trauma as medicine. I don't know how trauma can work as medicine, but we're gonna discuss about it.
We
All
will
right.
talk about
Yeah.
it.
Welcome to my show, Sarah.
Thank you, Pantea. Thank you for having me here. I'm really honored to be speaking with you today and being a part of this self-healing broadcast that you do. What a great thing for people suffering through PTSD.
Yeah, thank you so much. So tell me about yourself first. What you doing exactly with your healing journey, and did you already have you already experienced some healing for yourself? And tell me about your background, what you do. Yes.
Absolutely, Pantea. So, what I'm excited about is the birthing of this book, Trauma as Medicine, and it's based on my personal experience of my mother's homicide. So, in 1995, my mother, Sheila Salter, was murdered by a stranger in the parking garage of her work. She was missing for 10 days, and her body had been taken to an abandoned farmhouse and left inside of there in the Christmas season. And so my family went through the experience of navigating this most unspeakable trauma of losing somebody, not only suddenly, but losing somebody in a violent way and losing somebody to something such as homicide. The person who had killed her turned himself in, and though he pled not guilty, he was found guilty of murder one in uh, beginning of April of 1997, and he was sentenced to 25 years in jail. Shortly thereafter, he committed suicide in prison, or suicided. And so there I was sitting with these two very unnecessary deaths in my mind's eye, and being with this most devastating tragedy of losing my mother. I was 20 years old in such a horrendous way, and contemplating how do you be with such an unspeakable loss. I already was quite skilled at personal growth workshops and seminars, having my mother was a life coach, and so I had been exposed to personal growth um, conversations and knowledge from a very young age. And I also had a very devout spiritual path and earth-based traditions. So I very much felt like everything happens for a reason and that there was a greater purpose in all that had shown up, even the hard things. And so when my mother was murdered, I was sitting there with this whole set of beliefs that had given me such a sense of meaning in my life, and this very devastating experience that seemed to contradict those beliefs. So part of my healing journey became this act of how do I bring these together? Do I bring these together? Do they even fit? And what does it all mean? And so that I would say would bridge the first 10 years in the aftermath of her loss. I did a lot of my own healing work. I studied energy healing as well. I became a mother. I've married my partner who had been my boyfriend when mom had passed. And a lot of my focus was going inwards and recognizing that when this energy of my grief or trauma came up, I had to create a process for myself to allow it to move through me. And most of that occurred by taking time outside in nature, be that walking in the mud along the river, singing out loud, doing, literal prayers out loud, and asking for help and asking for guidance from source. And so that cultivated a very deep listening, so that through that process, I came to recognize that I had triggers that I needed to address. One of my greatest values in life is freedom. And so the idea that there is something that is holding me back from living with freedom makes me so crazy inside that I will do whatever it takes to address it. So I could feel these different fears that crept up because of my mother's homicide. I mean, she was attacked by a stranger in a parking garage. This is every woman's greatest fear, to be attacked in the dark.
And with no reason, right?
No reason at all. No, he was a complete stranger. Um, and and so how to how to face this fear became of even walking at night, being somewhere that was unfamiliar, going into parking garages. And so in sitting with that deep sense of fear, to me it felt more important to address the fear than to be worried about what would happen if I didn't. And so I made myself go into the parking garage of where she had been murdered on more than one occasion. I made myself face and map out the scenarios of how she died. And she was brutally raped, and attacked. And, her body was tossed into the back of her car. All of these pieces of evidence came up at the trial. And they became important for me to find the courage inside of myself to address them rather than feel the energy of not addressing it. And so I viewed it very much from an energetic standpoint, even if I didn't have those words then, Pantea, because I was still, I was figuring out what to do. And any of the, more common practices for addressing grief or trauma just didn't feel like a fit for me. I didn't have internet then. I know it's hard for people to even imagine that. But, there wasn't internet. There was some resources in the library. However, there really wasn't a lot on what do you do when you lose your mother to homicide, and how do you process the violence that shows up in your own body.
Sarah, before we go further, I totally follow you. I didn't have the same experience, but somebody was going to kill me and threaten me with knife point, and that's why I had a really bad back injury. He robbed my car, and I was really bad injured.
Hmm.
I totally follow you when you say you didn't want to go to parking lot in the beginning. It
Yeah.
for me was terrible because every time I just felt that somebody's following me, somebody's gonna
Yeah.
kill me. So
Yeah.
even if, and because these thoughts with were with me all the time,
Mm-hmm.
even if I went to somewhere else again, some other people attacked me. They robbed my wallet.
Oh
Was
my
not
goodness.
that was not very dangerous as the first one. But again, then I realized by the time, as you said, you're not processed this PTSD inside you, that's going to happen for you over and over again
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because you're prone to this violence
Yeah.
and you experience it, you visualize it in yourself. So what you expect is getting the violence again. So
Yeah.
that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, Pantea. What became evident to me through the years was that I could slow my breath down, and I could slow my mind down enough to be present with what was triggering me. So even if it wasn't a parkade, but even a parking lot, let's say, and I'm pushing groceries and it's snowy and I'm way in the back of the lot and there's people walking around that don't feel safe, because I've had people approach me before. So even then, I would feel myself start to go into panic and all that energy rising up inside of my throat, and my mind starts thinking about what could happen. I take a deep breath, and I'd plan my escape route just in case. Okay, if I have to, I'll ditch my groceries and I'll go this way. But chances are, Sarah, that's not going to happen right now. And so you have your plan just in case you need it. And Let's take a few deep breaths into your whole body. Let's even feel my whole body. Feel your back, feel your legs, your bottom, your front, and be where you are right now. And just breath by breath, get to the car, breath by breath, unload the groceries, go into the car. If I need to, lock the door. You know, I used to judge myself if I wanted to lock the door. I wasn't being brave enough. and so and so all of those little pieces are micro tools of how we can address a macro issue, right? Recognizing how our brain starts to take us down that trajectory because, as you know, you can get attacked by a violent offender. Having lost my mom, I know bad guys can kill people you love. I also have been mugged myself. When I was about 16, I was mugged walking home from work one night, and my intuition had told me very clearly to turn around and look at the person. And I didn't listen to my intuition. I ignored it, and the person came up behind me, pushed me down, stole my purse, and ran off. And so having had that experience allowed me to go, okay, just a second here. If I don't listen to my intuition, here's the result of that. And so learning to really trust my intuition and notice, is it my intuition that's telling me to be cautious, or is it my fear of what might happen? Right? Because both of them are different. Sometimes there's our intuition, and then sometimes there's that, okay, I think bad's gonna happen, and I think, you know, and our brain goes into that reel. And so learning to recognize the difference between the two. And for me, what I've noticed for myself, or in my own healing practice, I've taught trauma-focused healing workshops since about 2013, is just really slowing it down to that breath and really recognizing what still needs to be addressed.
You know, you actually pointed a very good situation, because yes, we have a fear of something happening, but we have to get the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened without reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, that day what happened to me, I had this feeling that my car is not tuned. You
Oh.
can't believe it. I have it in my mind. Oh, my car is not tuned. Why is like I'm moving? Not, I have to go and check up my car. I had this in my mind. And then when this man ran to me, he said exactly the same thing. He said, "Your car is not tuned." And you see, I
Wow.
had this intuition in my mind that is
Yeah.
not something wrong. And then that's why I had my window open, and I asked him what happened. And before I do something else, then then
Mm-hmm.
he had his knife in front of my eyes. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what I realized. Yes, you have to trust yourself, because when you are open to what is going to happen in future, your spirit knows,
Yeah.
and you follow your spirit, it goes. So what happened later, I get the lesson. And then from those two accidents that I had,
Hmm.
when one day I was going back to my parents, another country, Iran, and I was in Dubai airport, and then I went to washroom, come back, my passport was not there. I lost my passport. And then I said, okay, don't panic. You have two choices. Just panic, like, oh, what should I do? Blah, blah, blah. Then you go to before going to the washroom, I was saying, why there is a police station inside inside the airport? Maybe something bad happened to somebody. I never thought about this police station, but that day specifically I thought about it before going to washroom. And then I went to police station. Oh, and said, okay, I can see my passport in front of me. It's here in my hand. So I went to the police station, and I said, is my passport here? They want to tease me. I said, no, why did you lose your passport? Blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, they give me the passport.
Hmm.
Somebody, I was so lucky, somebody just gave it to them because they
Yeah.
found it in washroom. But that's that. In this case, I just realized there are lots of things happening to you, just telling you about your intuition, as you said. So you have to learn the lesson, how to trust yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So
when
important.
something has happened to you, stop panicking. Just open your mind and just leave everything to your God or whatever
Yeah.
spirit, and then the best thing happen out of it.
Yeah, one of the things I reference in my book is to, you check in with yourself and notice, is there actually a lion chasing me? Or is it, I'm afraid that there might be a lion? And to start to notice, because our mind is so tricky and our mind will hook us into fears that aren't present. Now, the thing is, though, is what I've noticed is that those triggers also help us to recognize what healing work we have to do. You asked me at the beginning, how can trauma be medicine? And that's a big part of the story for myself, and a big part of the journey is that after about 10 years, after my mother had been murdered, I recognized that the person representing my biggest fear was the person who had killed her. And he was dead. So to me, I thought, what does he have to do with me? He's dead. He's um, you know, how does this have any meaning for me? Why does this
And
matter?
how he doesn't have any power to do it again because he's not dead.
Exactly, exactly. But I still, when I brought my awareness into my body and really felt where that energy was hanging out in my body, I couldn't deny the fact that I had unresolved issues with this man, and that I still had to direct my own anger. I had to tend to my own sense of victimization and express any of the energy that he had caused, the harm he had caused in my life, which I had never done up until that point. And and so I created my own process, and this is also what the book is about, is how do we create our own processes to metabolize trauma, where I talk to him once a week for about an hour and a half over the course of 9 months. So I created my own ceremony where I felt connected to my relationship with God, and so that I could be in the most highest part of myself to have these conversations. And two things happened. One of the things that happened that was totally unexpected is that after a couple of months, I had a vision of compassion. And this guy, he had been out of prison for only 6 days before my mother was murdered. He had grown up in the system. He was First Nations. He came from folks who had gone to residential schools. He came from a legacy, actually, of trauma himself, much of which I didn't know at that time. I just knew that I had to express how the anger that I had inside of me. And on this one day, I had this vision of compassion where I saw him as my child. And it was completely unexpected. I wasn't planning on compassion. All I was planning for was to get angry. And so I almost felt like compassion hijacked my experience initially. And yet it was such a beautiful experience of compassion where I recognized that just because he killed my mother didn't actually make him less than I was. It didn't mean that he was evil. It did mean that he created an evil act, yes, that caused harm, yes, that he needed to be responsible for. But all of a sudden, I started to wonder who he was, where he came from, and why he had come to be the person in the parkade that day. What circumstances had come to pass in his life that had meant that he was, at 8:15 in the morning on December 7th, 1995, he was in this tiny parking garage that only held about 10 cars, and accosted my mother. And so that led me on a really strong journey where I actually connected with the First Nation band that he came from. I was appointed to work with a former chief who taught me a lot about the history of, he was from Satellite Cree Nation. And so as I started to come full circle in my process and follow this desire for what is the collective meaning of my mother's death, um, that that experience of listening to the voice of compassion is what started to develop this sense of medicine, if you will, inside of me. And I'm, I'm condensing a 10, 25-year experience into a 10 minutes. But I think it's possible when we go deeper and deeper into the energy that's showing up in our bodies and listen to it, we can actually follow it towards whatever our own greater calling is, trusting that even if those experiences are really difficult, they still have some of the maybe the greatest teachings that we can receive in our human lives.
Can I add something here? Do you want to hear the rest of my story?
Yes, I do. Of course I do. Please.
So you think that, okay, he robbed my car, that's it. But what happened? I like the idea about the compassion, because I said, let's do something differently. I can sit there and I can hate him because he robbed the car and hit me so badly. But on the other hand, I can be more compassionate. So I feel with all the noises around me, everybody talking, and I sit because I couldn't go anywhere. I had a really bad back injury. So I sit there and I try to visualize him, and I could see him that he is running with the car. He even didn't change the gears. I could feel it, I could see it. And then I told him, why this happened to you? Why is you have so rush? What is this rush for? And then I didn't hate him. I came home. I mean, I went to hospital checkup and I had back injury, but I didn't hospitalize in a hospital because my mom was a nurse. So I came back home, and with all the pain that I have, for 6 months I couldn't walk. I
Oh
couldn't
my
sit
goodness.
properly.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit. Very bad. But instead of hating, because if you hate somebody, you keep all the energy inside you, and it doesn't that's the point of healing with the medicine. It doesn't help you heal, because you still have those negative energies. So I let it go, and I talked to him and visualize him, and I said, if this car is for me, it's gonna back to me, it's gonna get back to me. I will be blessed. And if it's not, that's fine. I just let it go. He called or home. Can you believe this? Because
Wow.
my cell phone was in the car, and uh, he called the home. My mom pick up the phone. My mom was a nurse that time, and he was crying, and he said, I don't know what your daughter did to me. I can't do this. I can sell this car or can do anything. I'm gonna return it. I really
Wow.
have a very bad feeling. So he returned the car. And
Wow.
that's the I just really felt that we as human uh, do some of the things when we have a difficult situation, unexpected situation, and trauma happen
Yeah.
when we are not expecting. We have two choices: just go and have a fear, hate the situation, hate the people that did it to us. But then we have another side of it:
Mm.
calm down, live it, and just try to heal with, I'm not saying love him, or give a lot of positive energy, because when you are tired and your body is exhausted, you are in pain, it's very difficult
Hmm.
uh, to be like that.
Yeah.
But you can help yourself. At least you don't need to keep those negative energy inside you.
Yeah, what a beautiful story. What a
Yeah.
powerful story. I feel a lot of similarities in our stories too.
Yes.
And don't you notice that when that negative energy comes up, I find it important. Sometimes it needs to have a voice. And this is something I've often done in programs. Like, I knew for me, I was really reluctant to acknowledge that I had any negative energy. I thought, what was the point of being angry? He was dead, my mom was dead. What was the point of being angry? And yet, after about 10 years, I felt this anger inside of me. And so I created a safe space where I could use my visualization and I could get angry at him. And then when I was done, I was done. Now, I had to do that quite a few times. However, I could feel when it was complete in my body. And that was when there was more space for compassion. Is that when that anger came through me, and when I acknowledged that I had also gone through an experience where I was helpless, where I was victimized, even if I didn't like the word victim, I had been victimized. And so to step out of it, it needed that acknowledgement. And then I was free to come more into a place of compassion. And that happened naturally without even planning it, right? As I said to you, initially, I felt like, what are you doing here, compassion? I wanted to be mad. However, as I had expressed the anger, naturally in my heart, there was room for compassion, and it seemed to be an organic part of the process.
Exactly. And the thing is, when you experience this once, when the second time happen, you have a better idea of how to confront.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, as I said, with the second one that people attack me, I was numb. I couldn't hate or anything. Like
Mm-hmm.
they robbed the um, wallet, and I called them. Oh, what happened? They called me with the mobile, and I saw the number. Uh, what did I? Oh no, I called my mobile. I called my mobile. The mobile was with them.
Okay.
And then what happened? They took to pick up the phone, and I said, I know you have my mobile. That's fine. You take. I was a student that time. I only have $20 inside my bag. None of my cards really useful for you, because it's gonna be canceled today, so you can't use anything. So just leave it somewhere. I take my cards and wallet. You take my phone or whatever you want, which you think that is valuable. And then the police found my wallet, um, like in 1 2 streets ahead. I didn't lose anything actually. Only my mobile was that time was not in nothing. So that's what I'm saying. Like, next time when this happened, I was like, okay, I was laughing, even if they hit me, punch me on the face. And they said, first I was thinking, first I have to change my mind. I have to change something in me, because I have all the fears still in
Right.
me. Somebody's gonna follow me. Come on, who's gonna following you?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's true. That's the biggest piece, right? And that's even in raising my daughters. I have twin girls who are 21, and I also have stepdaughters that are 29 and 34. So even in
Wow.
parenting them, having those conversations about how to be smart about where you're walking and when, and yet not to be walking with fear, not to be, and so much of that, don't you find, is listening to your intuition, listening to whatever the wisdom inside of your own being is telling you, and letting that inspire the decisions you make, rather than going into, oh, I can't do that because this might happen or that might happen. Or there's many times that I'll feel somebody walking behind me or on the other side of the street from me. All I do, if I need to, is just turn around and look at them. And eye contact is a game changer, you
Yeah,
know? And you know, and most of the time they'll just cross and go to the other side of the street, or it's when we have that attitude of fear and start walking
exactly.
faster, which is what I had
Yes,
done
of
when I was
course.
out.
You attract the negative energy this way. You want something.
Exactly. It takes
Yeah.
on a force of its own, right? It really does.
So we have a few seconds break and then we come back to your book. I really wish to know about your book.
Okay.
Please subscribe to Pantea Kalhor Transition channel and order my book Rules of Change for the Better. Tune up your mood and transform your life to reach your biggest dreams. So, about your book. First, when do you publish it? When it's available and how they can purchase it? And then tell me about your website.
Okay, yeah, the beginning of your question cut out. Pantea, could you repeat that for me?
Yes, I said, please tell me about your book. When are you going to publish it? And what is your website?
Oh,
What do
absolutely.
you
Yeah, so it's just been published with Friesen Press. And so you can buy it either on my website, which is sarahsalterkelly.com, or you can buy it through Friesen Press. It's been officially published for 2 months now, but it takes them a while with their first printing. So I don't even have one in my hands yet. I still have my, my PDF copy. Yeah, what's really exciting about it is that I found in my own process that I couldn't find much support in how I could find steps or tools to heal myself. So what's exciting is that I've mapped out a bit of a journey for the reader where I'm applying the template from Mom's Homicide, and I talk about tending the victim self. I talk about moving into the underworld of our trauma, how to face fear, how to metabolize, inclusive of journal exercises, questions, meditations, and even ceremonies or rituals. They can help to give us an embodied experience, creating our own prayers, learning how to really be with whatever is present in our bodies, and allow it to move through us.
So thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed talking to you, and we had a lot of similarities in our stories.
Yeah.
Yours was much worse because it's very difficult to lose a mother
Mhm.
with that tragedy. But as you said, yeah, I know why you said trauma can.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Pantea. And I'm so excited with what you've created with your channel. So I'm looking forward to following you more and sharing this what you're doing. I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank
Bye.
you.